Today we're talking about the key to higher consciousness and what it has to do with the difference between wisdom versus knowledge. This is really important. We're going to dive into a lot of different aspects here. Now, I talk about 3 different things that are needed for hyper-awareness, which is metacognition, concept networking, and phenomenological experience. But we're going to really focus on one of them today and really dive into the concept of how one can attain higher consciousness, what that really means, and everything in between. So we're going to be taking a look here. If I take a look at, there's an article by Alton Greer, and Alton Greer actually has a YouTube channel called Turtleneck Philosophy, and it's appropriate that we're talking about him today. So he has an article over on medium.com called Albert Camus, The Difference Between Knowledge and Wisdom. This is important, and it's something that we talk about a lot. And you're going to see a lot of this highlighted because, you know, on my channel, we talk a lot about metacognition, and we also talk about intelligence a lot, and how I always say that when it comes to intelligence, I do not think, and I do not consider people who just have a collection of facts to be intelligent. Some people who have a lot of knowledge just have data in their minds like someone collects facts like they collect trading cards. And this does not necessarily lead to a higher awareness or higher consciousness. It's just a collection of data, which a computer can have a vast collection of data, but a computer is not conscious. So let's I want to really start here and take a look at this because there's some really great points that I want to talk about. So Albert Camus once said, "An intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself." And that is such a cool way of talking about metacognition, because I talk about metacognition a lot and people go, well, what is metacognition? Metacognition is self-thinking thought. It is mind that thinks about mind. And you can see that metacognition is necessary for gaining higher degrees of awareness. Now, if you want to get to what we talk about hyper-awareness, you need more than just metacognition. There's also concept networking and phenomenological experience. But if one is raising their awareness in general, metacognition is key. And this is, as Camus said, intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself. It's mind watching itself. And one can understand the difference between looking at an instinctual animal and a self-aware human. An instinctual animal is just, it has sentience, it experiences, it has awareness. When, you know, it can experience happiness and love and hunger and pain and sadness and joy and elation. It can have all these kinds of experiences. But it's not self-referencing in a complex way. And what I mean by that, it's not thinking, next week I want to have kibble at 3 a.m. Before I go outside and take a shit. A dog does not reflect like that, whereas a self-aware human does. So a dog will see itself in the mirror and just bark at the mirror because it thinks that's another dog. It's just having an experience, an awareness. Oh, there's a dog there, bark. It doesn't even think there's a dog there. It just registers dog, has the experience of other dog, and barks at other dog. Whereas a human looks in the mirror and goes, oh, that is me. So do you see how there's a level of self-reference happening here? That is me. And this is where self-awareness really starts to become born, is when one goes, oh, I am an I. That is me. I am an I. And so you have thought that process of metacognition is beginning to happen. I am an I. You see, you have that self-reflection beginning. You are thinking about yourself in a complex, conscious way. And you see how this type of process is what starts to develop one's self-awareness. Now, there are different levels of self-awareness that one can attain, and then one can go beyond self-awareness to a higher consciousness, even all the way up to hyper-awareness. And it involves that key of metacognition, increasing one's self-awareness by the mind watching and understanding itself. Good example of this is when we talk about interstar actualization, which, if anyone is not familiar with that, it has some similarities to Jungian integration. It's not exactly the same. There's some big differences, and it incorporates a lot more than just Jung. It has a lot of work from, a synthesis of so many different places within our understanding of what reality is. But anyway, understanding one's own mind and integrating one's unconscious into consciousness is a great example of a process of metacognition, of a mind that watches itself. Because you have humans that are self-aware and they think about what they're going to do next week. They think about themselves, what they want to wear, what they want to eat, what makes them happy, who they want to date, what they want to do in life, etc. And this is all involves self-awareness. But so many people don't give great thought to the complexity of their thoughts and their mind. So you can see that there's now a difference here, rather than just pure thinking, like but there's still a process of metacognition happening. When you go, oh, I want to go to dinner next week, you still have that self-reference, you still have a self going on. That's still involved, but it's a very basic level. When you get to the point where, okay, now you want to start working on integration, and you go, okay, who am I? What makes me tick? What is residing in my unconscious that I'm not even aware of? And this is when we get to the ideas of like the shadow self and the mirror self and the power self, and things like the shadow self, which is a reservoir of all your repressed content throughout your life that contains elements of yourself that you're not even aware of. You start to become more self-aware. Just becoming aware of the fact that you have a shadow self, you're gaining more self-awareness than someone who does not know that they have a shadow self. Because you've gained, you're doing your thought that is thinking on itself at a higher level. You're now aware that you have a shadow self. You might not know what is the contents of the shadow self. You might not have integrated the shadow self, but you just are aware of its existence. So you have gained a level of awareness, rather than someone who has no idea what the shadow self is. Then you can go even further by understanding and discovering what is in your shadow, what your shadow is comprised of, and then how to integrate that shadow in a healthy way, and then becoming aware of all the different structures in your mind, like the mirror self and the power self. See how you're doing a much more complex job of metacognition, and as you do so, you're becoming more conscious. Literally, you are. This is not some buzzword or new age mystical empty concept. You are making the unconscious conscious through a process of metacognition. You are increasing your conscious field by making what was unknown known and available to consciousness, and integrating it in a positive and healthy way. Hopefully, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to aim for. That's just one example, though. That's just one example of I want to give you about metacognition being used in the way of psychology, because I think it's a decent example, but it can go much beyond this. It can go way, 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 way beyond this, like in terms of phenomenology, which is the study of a priori structures of experience, which it's just about how, like, what the idea of what even is a mind, what is subjectivity, this is all mind reflecting upon itself. And these are incredibly important for metacognition. And the idea here is, a sort of quick and dirty way to understand it is a dog looks at itself in the mirror and thinks it's an other dog. A human looks at itself in the mirror and knows, oh, that is me. And then someone who is hyper aware looks at everything around them and goes, oh, that's me. So you see, you're entering into a new level of awareness here. When you watch a dog barking at itself in the mirror, you go, oh, silly dog. That's just you, silly thing. But a human will look at itself in the mirror and go, oh, well, that's, I know that is me. But most humans have no idea that all reality is just a othering and reflection of themselves. And to one who has not obtained that higher degree of awareness, that probably sounds crazy. If I say, well, everything is a reflection of you othered, you experiencing yourself in diversity and multiplicity, that probably sounds crazy. Well, a dog doesn't know that like its reflection is, if you go, oh, hey, that's you, it's not going to know what the heck you're talking about because it hasn't gotten to that level of self-awareness. So what we want to do is bring humanity to a higher level of awareness, so we recognize that we're essentially all diverse reflections of one another. And so we can stop all this hatred and bloodshed and killing because we're not trying to destroy the other, like the dog trying to attack its reflection in the mirror. We realize, oh, this is all a diverse multiplicity, a plurality, a particularization of what I/we are, and we're in this together. And metacognition is key to this. You also will need concept networking and phenomenological experience, but this we'll talk about that probably later. But metacognition is key for advancing your level of awareness. So let's see here. This is a great distinction. Okay, so we're talking about, so this is the author here, again. The beautiful quote by Camus, who says, an intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself. And that's so cool. I love that. You can have someone who knows a lot of facts and a lot of data, but has a very low form of self-awareness. Like I said, a computer can have tons of facts and data, but a computer is not conscious. And an intellectual is someone whose mind watches. I really like this quote a lot. So the author continues, this, referring to the quote, is a great distinction because it highlights the key difference between knowledge and wisdom. Now, knowledge is important, don't get me wrong. Knowledge is sort of the material that you have to work with. But if you just have a bunch of that material and don't know what it is or what it's used for, it's like having a lot of bricks, but not knowing how to build a house. You can show people your great collection of bricks, but it's like people who show off with all these different dates that they can rattle off and facts, but they don't really have an understanding of themselves and the world and existence and reality. So the author continues, knowledge is knowing about stuff. And the more knowledge you have simply amounts to more knowing about stuff. It's data collecting. And that's right. I completely agree. So wisdom, on the other hand, is understanding how your mind uses that data through observation. Psychologists have a scientific term for this, mind watches itself behavior. It was introduced in the 1970s as metacognition, which, if we were in Camus' day, existentialists would have likened it to the term phenomenology. But for us, as 21st century world walkers, metacognition can be best understood, translated to the more frequently used term, self-awareness. So do you see this connection between terms of phenomenology, metacognition, self-awareness? These are all linked together. And this is why, why I talk about how metacognition is necessary for the increase in awareness. And then the author mentions phenomenology. What is phenomenology? Phenomenology, understood simply, is the study of subjective experience. The study of, you can talk about a priori structures or whatever if you want to get fancy about it, but essentially what it is it's the study of subjective experience. And which is something that is grossly ignored today. So you have, and that involves metacognition. If you're studying subjective experience, well, that's mind thinking about itself, because you are a center of subjective. You are a subject having an experience. That's what you are. You're a subjective center of experience. You are a thing that is experiencing. You are a subject that is experiencing. And if you study subjective experience, well, you're studying yourself. You're engaging in metacognition. So let's see. The author continues here. Self-awareness is not only being capable of feeling your emotions, it's also being capable of observing your feelings, observing yourself feeling your emotions, to be able to stand back somewhat objectively and observe thoughts as they arise. And yeah, so self-awareness so it says self-awareness is not only being capable of feeling your emotions. So self-awareness entails feeling emotions, but what that really is sentience. So animals are sentient. They can feel emotions. That's fabulous. Humans are self-aware, which entails sentience. So you could just call that awareness. You have awareness, which is sentience. Then you have self-awareness, which is consciousness. And you can have sentience without self-awareness, but you can't have self-awareness without sentience. Self-awareness requires sentience. Sentience is the you as a subjective entity that can have an experience of some kind. And that is necessary for you to experience and understand yourself and engage in metacognition. So the author continues, what's the advantage of doing this? Where's the wisdom in that? Well, the wisdom here first involves being in position to not just have beliefs, but being able to question those beliefs. Really important, because we talk a lot about religion on my channel, because it's really important, and it's a world. It is a concept. Religion is a concept that limits awareness. It limits self-awareness. It limits one's ability to grow in consciousness. And many of those who believe in religion just engage in pure belief without the concept of questioning one's belief. Now, this doesn't just apply to religion. It applies to anything. It applies to science very, very, very much so. It applies to science. Scientific materialism, empiricism and materialism, which is the prevailing paradigm today, is extremely dogmatic. Max Planck, the founder of quantum mechanics, said this outright, that science doesn't advance by showing people new ways of doing things, but because people die and a new generation grows up with new ideas. I paraphrase that greatly, but essentially saying that scientists are not open-minded. They just die and then of old age or whatever, and then a new generation grows up and they are now influenced by the ideas of their time, rather than actually, in other words, those involved in science don't actually change their minds. They're very dogmatic about their materialist empirical beliefs. It really takes a new generation to grow up around new ideas to be open to those ideas, because they're, not already set in their ways. And again, that's a paraphrasing Max Planck, founder of quantum mechanics. So, what was my point? What was I talking about? Oh, yes. Questioning beliefs in general. It doesn't just apply to religion, or applies to science, or applies to philosophy, or applies to most people. Just as this author is talking about the difference between wisdom and knowledge, most people are just collectors of data and collectors of facts. But they don't really question or analyze or try to expand those ideas. So again, it's not just about having beliefs, but as the author says, being able to question those beliefs. So the author continues, you see, being an objective observer of your own mind, being self-aware, means that you're not helplessly subject to identify yourself with a belief or thought as soon as it arises in your consciousness. Instead, you're able to put the you who holds an identity claim on trial for further inspection. And so being self-aware means that you're not left helplessly subject to identify yourself with a belief or thought as soon as it rises in your consciousness. If you have a belief or a thought, you don't have to identify that with right away. You're able to hold on and observe it and evaluate it objectively. And you want to be able to evaluate it objectively, divorced from dogmatic beliefs. And this is a crucial point worth stressing. You cannot observe or critique what you identify with so long as you're identified with it. It is only when you step away from yourself, away from the identity claim, that you can assess it with any kind of objective power. I'll say it again. The subject must become the object if it's to be objectively observed and assessed. This is the whole power of self-awareness / metacognition. So this idea of the subject becoming the object. So we have this whole interplay of, this is going to, I don't know, what time is it? Seeing how much time I have. I'm going to start talking about subject and object here. Subject, the great work, the unity of subject and object. That is a huge topic. The unity of subject and object you're going to find in occultism and esoterica and philosophy and the works of Hegel and Freemasonry and all this. The absolute subject. We're familiar with subject and object, and that I am a subject, you are a subject, and that you are an experiencing mind. And there are objects, there are things that are other, and really though, I'm not going to get into too much because that would be too much for this video. But the idea is to finally understand the unity of subject and object, and that subject is object. Let's talk about it just a little bit, okay? So I can't help myself because it's just fascinating and it's really important. The unity of subject and object can really be understood in terms of dreams. When you're in a dream, and you don't know that you're dreaming, you think that dream is real. You are a subject in that dream experiencing lots of objects, lots of things that are other than you. There's a dream couch over there, and a dream tree, and a dream rabbit, whatever. But if you become lucid, you realize the unity of subject and object, and that yes, there are objects, but they're all you. Your dream world is from, you are having an othered experience of you. You're having yourself, your mind, expressed and othered in a way that you can experience in an objectified way, in an object way. And this is what this reality is. And this is the importance of going higher from self-awareness to hyper-awareness, in realizing that everything around us, you, me, all this, is ultimately us. It is just like when in a dream, it's all you, but you're experiencing it as other. Everything around us right now is all us. We're just experiencing it as other. These realizations are incredibly important to have to be able to reach a higher form of awareness, just like recognizing oneself in the mirror and going, oh, that is me. Having the recognition of all of us, everything as us, is important. But here's the critical fact. It's not going to work if you just believe it because I tell you that it's true. Don't believe it just because I tell you that it's true. One, because that's the opposite of having a free mind and coming to understanding and metacognition and using your mind for free thought. And it's just dogma at that point. If I say, well, it's true because it's true, and you just believe me because I said so, it's just dogma. And that's what we don't want. Attaining a new level of awareness isn't just, you have to understand it yourself. You have to understand and come to this conclusion and understand why that it's true and how that it's true yourself. If you just believe it because I tell you, it's not going to work. And the whole thing about what we talk about here, I don't want you to believe things because I tell you that they are a certain way. Because the whole point of what I do is I want to give people the tools to think for themselves. So if you just believe something I say because I say it, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do here. What I want to do is give you the tools so that you can develop that awareness yourself, not just believe what I say, because then it's just a dogmatic religion, and that's a bunch of bullshit. It's about giving tools like metacognition and concept networking and phenomenological experience. We haven't talked about the other two yet. We will probably in another video. Maybe we'll touch on it a little. I don't know. But metacognition is a tool that I am just bringing your attention that exists so that you can use it yourself, not so that you can just believe what I say. I wouldn't want that that's the opposite of what I would want. So, so the subject must become the object if it is to be objectively observed and assessed. And simplistically, you can sort of understand that as like a reflection in the mirror. You have become object, and this allows you to think about yourself as an I. That's a very simplistic example. But the subject becoming object in the way of just concepts in general, concepts arising in your mind, you have thoughts that arise in your mind, and you want to stop and examine those thoughts that arise in your mind and evaluate those thoughts that you have in your mind, making them objects that you are examining as a subject. So the subject must become the object. You have a subjective thought, but you want to examine that thought as object. So this is the whole power of self-awareness and metacognition. Now, I'm assuming it's not necessary to thoroughly explain the value of questioning your own beliefs. So suffice it to say, if you don't sufficiently practice self-awareness, you're essentially missing out on the advantage of being an evolved human, of having developed a prefrontal cortex, because the whole point of intelligence starts at self-awareness. And this is a really good point, that if you're not doing this, if you're not questioning your own beliefs, you're missing out on what it is to be human and to be self-aware. You have this capability to do that. You have this great power of metacognition, but most people don't develop it. That's the thing, is that self-awareness and metacognition as the tool to develop one's self-awareness, this is something that can be developed. People have this sort of weird idea that, oh, everyone just it's like, oh, everyone has the same level of self-awareness. No. It's like working out and building muscles, or practicing how to play the guitar, or whatever you want to call it. It's something that you can develop and increase. Most people don't spend any time at all doing this. And there's you can reach such heights of awareness that are so grand and amazing, but people have no idea that this is even possible. And a good, one example, just I'm trying to give examples that are really simple to understand, because some of these ideas can be complex if one has never thought about them before. But imagine a person who, just a regular old person, average person, lives their life like the cookie cutter way that most people do. And then imagine someone else, let's say, who goes to therapy. Well, if you're going to therapy, you're going to start engaging in, facilitated by the therapist, in starting to explore your own mind. Now, in that, as you explore your own mind, you're going to start engage in metacognition. Because what a really good therapist does is doesn't tell you what they think, but tries to lead you and facilitate to your own realizations. Kind of trying to push you and prod you and guide you so that you come to certain realizations about yourself, rather than the therapist just going, oh, well, obviously this is the cause and this is what is happening and this is what's going on. That's not really that effective. It's more about guiding you. I mean, it can be. Sometimes it can be, okay? So it's hard to make blatant statements about something really complicated like that. But in many cases, it's useful to have the individual come to their own realizations themselves. And so in therapy, you are facilitated by the therapist, are engaged in this process of metacognition. And guess what? You're becoming more aware of yourself. You're becoming more aware of how your mind works. Because you're sitting there and reflecting and thinking about it. And, oh, wow, I guess I do have this issue. I never knew that I had this issue. But now thinking about it, yeah, wow, what am I going to do about this? I have to think of ways to make my life better by dealing with this. And so one is really engaging in a process where they're becoming more aware of themselves, versus someone who's never done that before, or will never do that in their lives. Well, that person who is doing it is gaining more awareness. Now, this is a very simple example, but it's just an easy one that I can point to when engaged with engaging in this idea of metacognition in understanding and beginning to think about thought, self-thinking thought, self-reflection, and intelligence making itself its own object of study. So as Aristotle once said, the mark of an intelligent person is one who can entertain a thought without accepting it. And that's a really good, I like that quote as well. So in short, according to Aristotle and Camus, self-awareness is intelligence, and intelligence is wisdom. So I want to talk about too this article by this individual who I've only am reading this one article from this person, but so far I like them a lot. I like their ability to put complex subjects into easy to understand language. So you should check out their channel. It's called Turtleneck Philosophy. Very appropriate. And let me know how it is if you enjoyed their channel. I'd be interested to know. So so my point was that this is really in the context of self-awareness, but I want to tell you that this is what allows one to not just increase one's self-awareness, but reach a higher consciousness as well. Because when you start to engage in higher forms of metacognition, you like I said, when you start having that reflection and really thinking about thought and understanding what you are, where you are, and why you are here, analyzing that and understanding it, you're going to start to come to the realizations. Your mind is going to go through a dialectical process of evolution and attain higher and higher degrees of understanding of what one is, where they are, why they're here, and how everything is connected. Now, this will bleed over into concept networking, which is about taking apparent disconnected information and seeing how it all connects together, and then phenomenological experience, which is having an experience of what it is to be the experience of it, rather than just a simple knowledge of it, but the real experience and understanding of it. But I don't want to get too much off topic. So one can understand this, though. Let me see here. A good... Yeah, so also, I'm just looking at some of my notes that I jotted down real quick. We talk about triadic consciousness a lot. Triadic consciousness being an important point of hyper awareness, whereas triadic consciousness is the avatar perspective, the monadic perspective, and the absolute perspective. And guess what? This all involves different levels of metacognition. When you're in the avatar perspective, this is just self-awareness. This is what most people have and do. It's the average, I am this body, I am this ego, I am this particular person. But then the monadic perspective is going beyond that to understand that, I am an eternal mind, and I am eternal, and I am actually this higher self that has all these intricate components to it and have experienced lifetimes. And then the absolute perspective, with the understanding that we are the all, and we're all just different particularizations of an identity that is understanding itself and coming to know itself through particularizations and diversity and multiplicity. And this all entails metacognition. So it's incredibly important because you can see how you're kind of going to higher levels. You're just like reflecting on, in the avatar perspective. And each one of these has different levels as well, and you can develop them. Because in the avatar perspective, which is just me as a body and an ego, well, you can engage in inner actualization and understand you as this particular individual better, integrate shadow, integrate mirror, integrate power, and develop that. But one can do this even better, much better, through having that monadic perspective as well. Much, much better when you understand that you aren't just relegated to this one individual lifetime, but that you are this energetic complex of frequency that is on a path of evolution and teleological actualization, and that you are, beyond space and time. So you have a greater understanding of what you are, and then the absolute perspective, which is us as a collective, which I'll talk about another time. But here's another example, kind of getting into the importance of developing higher levels of awareness. So let's take a look at the process of evolution. So the process of evolution, imagine, a time before humanity and self-awareness. Evolution is just unconsciously directed. We understand it as an energetic process of frequency, dialectical frequency interaction, but evolution is an unconsciously directed force. And what happens, it results in natural developments, biological developments, bodies, animals, new forms of biological natural life. That's what happens as evolution, as an unconsciously directed force. Now, the humans eventually come along and develop self-awareness. Well, what happens then? Evolution is now directed by humans. Because, and through this, I mean technological developments, through technology. People kind of look at technology as being something that is different from evolution, but it is not. It is not different from evolution. It is just human-directed evolution. And when evolution is directed by humans, which through technology, we get technological developments. And I talk about all the time how like the smartphone is a externalized organ that has been developed and gives us, extends our abilities, extends us as what we are. So we get technological developments through self-awareness, and humans now directing. You have self-awareness, you have humans being able to direct technology. But once you get an even higher form of just simple self-awareness, but hyper-awareness, now what happens is you'll have evolution as directed by humans that know that they themselves are the force of evolution and are consciously directing their own development. So do you see the difference? And now what's different is now you get hyper-aware technology, which is technology developed purposefully to aid in our development, in our progress. So do you see how you have the development of that priority of its purpose? It's a fine-tuning of the direction and purpose of evolution. In unconscious evolution, before humanity and self-awareness came on the scene, it took billions and billions of years of unconscious trial and error, survival of the fittest, and natural selection and dialectical evolution and all of that. It took billions and billions of years, so long, to get to an entity capable of survival and capacity for self-awareness, humans, an entity that is able to survive, adapt, and develop self-awareness. Then when self-awareness comes on the scene, humans are now able to develop technology. And look at, in comparison to unconsciously directed, like evolution before humanity, look at how fast development has occurred with technology, which is human-directed evolution, compared to evolution that was not directed in that through an awareness. We'd have billions and billions of years. Look how fast our technological development has been just in the last 100 years. And that is a ridiculously tiny amount of time compared to the age of the universe. So look how fast technological development has been able to occur, because you're sort of focusing and fine-tuning this developmental process which was facilitated through an increase in awareness. Just going from instinctual awareness to self-awareness, we'll be able to increase our development. But guess what? Humans have not become aware yet of where they are, what they are, why they're here. They're just self-aware. They're not hyper-aware yet. They haven't realized that they haven't realized that they are the force of evolution that's directing itself. They haven't realized that yet. So they're developing technologies, but they don't know why they're developing technologies. And they can develop technologies that are very detrimental to us. Why do human beings develop technologies? More or less to make money. To solve problems too, of course, but a huge motivating factor is to make money. And so you can come up with something like social media, which new media, social media in general, is a great development, but it has been poisoned by this by money. When these are developed to be addictive and bombard you with something that strips away your time and money and development by literally being made to be addicted simply to show you more advertisements to get you to buy more products. So you have this development of technology, which is very fast and excellent, but humanity doesn't really understand what they're doing in the grand scheme of things. They're just doing technology because, well, they want to solve some problems, and a huge motivating factor is to make money. So you can end up with technologies that are damaging and that aren't directed well. There's no real goal for it. So some of them have small goals for overcoming certain challenges. But when you get to hyper-awareness, and now we start talking about humanity that understands that they are the force of evolution guiding itself and can build hyper-aware technology, which is technology for the purpose of aiding in our development and evolution. So now you know that, okay, we are the force of evolution directing itself and will teleologically guide our development of technology for the purpose of creating a better world for all of us, increasing the quality of life for all, and increasing our collective self-actualization. So do you see how even more fine-tuned it is? Now, if you had it, it's very, very focused for a specific purpose and a specific reason with a specific goal. And just like previously, the development of technology, you'd have, very, very fast progress in comparison to how it progressed previously. When humanity starts to become hyper-aware and develop these hyper-aware technologies, you will have an incredibly fast increase in the development of technology specifically geared towards a directed purpose. So you're going to have, there'll be a point where there will be, new developments so fast, and not purposeless, and not just directed towards the making of money, but specifically directed towards the development, our self-development as evolution, increasing its own power and self-development. So I'm getting a bit off topic here, but the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm trying to show that this is beyond just, like psychology or something. It's beyond just, oh, well, I'm going to study or understand my shadow self. That's a huge part of it and a very important part of it. But I'm trying to illustrate how it has huge implications for understanding what we are, where we are, why we are here. When we become hyperware and understand that we are this evolving subnetwork mind that is a unity expressing itself as a multiplicity, and we can aid in the development of our technology to aid in our synchronization and our connection and understanding and the experience that we're having in this world. You see now, it's not just about money, and we're not doing it without direction. We know what we are doing. We know what we are. We know why we are doing it. And we are doing it for the purpose and end and goal of increasing our quality of life, our knowledge, our actualization and understanding, not just to make money, which is ridiculous. Money should not be an end. And our world is dying and being destroyed because of it. So you can see how this is a good way anyway, I just wanted to kind of give a quick example of how it goes beyond just more simple examples and expand it to something larger. Let me bring this back up here though. So in building self-awareness into a habit by standing outside of your beliefs, what you simultaneously build is an increasing comfort for being uncertain. Let's call this a development of healthy skepticism. Now, without healthy skepticism, bad ideas tend to prevail in the absence of good evidence. And as history has shown, a sufficient number of bad ideas is the first step towards tyranny. So what is really being expressed here is that when one has an idea that arises in one's mind, one should not just accept it. Like all that stuff I just told you, don't just accept it. Analyze it. That's the thing. Have that idea in your mind, entertain it, think about it, analyze it. Through reason, through logic and reason. Don't just believe it because I said it was. I can tell you lots of shit. Actually examine it and yourself without integrating it yet. Don't just be like, oh yeah, think about it. Really, truly examine it. And this is incredibly important to developing your awareness. You want to be able to examine these things because, as the author is saying, as history has shown, a sufficient number of bad ideas is the first step towards tyranny. You can get really bad. So our world is in chaos because people just accept beliefs without questioning them. You know, look at the damage that religion has done because people just accept beliefs without questioning them. Look at the, limitations of materialist empirical science that has not moved on for over 100 years now, even though the advent of quantum mechanics obliterated the idea of materialism. So the idea is examine your thoughts, examine your ideas, use that capacity of metacognition to be able to have a healthy understanding of information before you integrate it. So, and so the author talks about tyranny as sort of like an ingredients, which is cute. I think that's cool. 1 cup of ideology, 1 to 3 servings of dogmatic leaders, pre-blended in outrage and passion for best results, a heaping spoonful of public madness, a dash of passivity, and stirred well in social contagion. This Mark, I don't know why, but this kind of reminds me of your humor. And voila, there is your well-baked tyranny. Moreover, being comfortable in uncertainty, aka being a healthy skeptic, will lead to more comfort in being wrong, and that's good for everyone, no matter who you are. Yes, it's okay to be wrong. That's fine. It's fine to be wrong. Some people will defend their beliefs to the death, even if, rather than admitting that they're wrong. We grow when we learn that we're wrong. If you are looking for truth, if you are looking for having a free understanding and a truthful, lucid understanding of existence, if you learn that you're wrong, that's fabulous, because now you can go, oh shit, I was wrong. Let me try and discover what is right. I can break free from that illusion that was holding me back. Because if you have a wrong belief, that's holding you back. And, Hegel said to be aware of your limitations is to already be beyond them. That's not, 100% related to this, but it has a similar feel. To be aware of that which is blocking you is to be beyond it, because you realize that there is a barrier there and that it can be overcome. You realize that there's something more. To be aware of your limitations is to already be beyond them, means that if you know that there is a limitation, you know that there's something else beyond it. Someone who isn't aware of their limitation thinks they know it all. Thinks that they don't know that there's something else beyond, so that they're forever trapped within that circumscription of their limitation. But if you know that you're limited, there's something else. So it's not 100% related, but it has the same sort of idea when it comes to being wrong. Being wrong, knowing that you're wrong, isn't this thing. Most people make their so much tie their identity to certain beliefs that they equate their belief with their identity. And so if someone shows them that they are wrong, they take it as an attack on themselves, because they have made themselves equivalent. They have made that identity to their belief. And so someone that points out perhaps that they are wrong, they have made it so much their identity that they take it as an attack on themselves, and they will defend it often to the death because people are crazy. But what one should do is, if one truly discovers that they are wrong, is go, oh, that's great. Well, now I am free. I am free to discover what is true. Now, so healthy skepticism is important. But one doesn't want to take the skeptic's position of just being skeptical of just absolutely everything all the time. You should have healthy skepticism, yes. But if you examine something and see that it checks out, it's rationally, you might not be able to confirm 100% that it's true, but you know, dealing in probabilities and weighing it rationally, it's like, this seems true. This seems, you know, I've examined it in all these different ways, and you shouldn't just reject things or hold things just for the sake of doing it. You know, that's kind of what those who label themselves as skeptics are just sort of, they have no real like beliefs. They just are skeptical of all things all the time. Now, you should be open to be questioning of everything that you hold, but that doesn't mean that you can't accept certain things and start to, you know, live according to certain live according to knowledge that you have about existence, right? So what I mean is healthy skepticism is important, but you don't want to be the person who just hold, because then that's also very limiting, because you're never going to start to build this collection of knowledge and wisdom and understanding that's going to get you to higher and higher levels of awareness. But you want to always be open to realizing, oh, this particular belief that I thought was true, if new data comes in or new rationalizations come in that show you that it's not true, you want to be open to rejecting it. So anyway, healthy skepticism leads to an epistemically humble and dispassionate conversation about the facts, which in turn leads to surfacing and acceptance of good ideas, which in turn leads to a free society, a society free of tyranny. And so, yeah, I like this. This leads to the surfacing and acceptance of good ideas. So yes, you want to, there's nothing wrong with accepting good ideas. And this leads to a society free of tyranny, because you're going to get that society that results in tyranny when people are just believing something because of a specific ideology says X, Y, and Z, or this person says X, Y, and Z. And so you give up your identity. So, and if you were to ask me, that is where wisdom is. It's in a mode of being that not only proves to be beneficial to you, but to everyone around you. So for your key takeaway, here's a 3-point checklist for making sure you're sticking according to wisdom. Stay skeptical, stay comfortable being wrong, avoid tyranny. Thank you and good night. I like this author. Check out this person's YouTube, is Turtleneck Philosophy. So, I like this, hey, you can't go wrong here. Stay skeptical, stay comfortable being wrong, and avoid tyranny. I think those are some pretty good pieces of advice. And the understanding here is really important that just knowledge, collecting of facts, is not going to lead you to a higher form of consciousness. You can have a lot of people out there that know a lot of things, but that are not intelligent. They don't have no idea what they are, where they are, or why they are here. They have just collected this data. Now, this data provides material for metacognition and concept networking. Metacognition, again, is the ability to self-reflect, and it's the ability of its thought thinking about itself. And this allows one to, like I said, engage in interstar actualization, psychology, understanding yourself, integrating the unconscious into consciousness, raising your consciousness, raising your awareness. And then concept networking is being able to knit together disparate ideas to be able to see that reality is a unified whole. So it's about taking the knowledge that you have and seeing how it all fits together to form a grand picture. You can kind of imagine it like a puzzle. If you're just collecting facts, it's like collecting puzzle pieces, but just having them all jumbled together. So you got a bunch of facts, they're all your puzzle pieces. What concept networking is taking those pieces of knowledge and putting them together to form a picture of reality, of what the world is. Because people don't connect things together. This world is a whole. It's a holism. It's a whole. It's a unity, and everything connects to everything else. Whether it's psychology or philosophy, science, art, mathematics, emotion. Many people would think that these are all separate things, separate fields, but they're all just different perspectives of one thing. They're just different sides, different ways of looking at a unity that is expressing itself in various forms and modalities, various modes. So, and then phenomenological experience we'll talk about another time, because that's really that's one that's about not just knowing things or even putting them together, but having the experience of what it is to be that, rather than just being able to talk about it, repeat it, or have a knowledge of it. It's about knowing what it is, or not even knowing, but having the experience of what it is to be it. The feeling and the emotion and the intuition that comes with all. And that's really important, because reality isn't just bare form. It's quality. It has a quality to it. You experience reality, and that's extremely important, because all of our actions, everything we do, results in an experience that we have, and we want to create a better experience for everyone. And we need to understand that and factor that in and know what that means, and to have that experience ourselves. Because there are plenty of things that might seem good on paper in a formal way, but if you don't understand what the experience of that would be like, you could actually end up creating a very hellish experience if you don't realize that, oh, well, certain things result in pain, certain things result in horror, certain things result in sadness, certain things result. You have to understand the experiences that come along with these certain things that must be captured through phenomenological experience. But that's quite complex. We'll talk about that another time. But for now, and these are all, this is what is entailed for hyper awareness, but just raising your consciousness in general, reaching a higher form of consciousness. Start with understanding what metacognition is, understanding how to self-reflect, really think about thought, think about your own mind, think about all the different structures in your mind. Take a look at what we talk about is interstar actualization, being able to understand your shadow self, your mirror self, and your power self. And this understanding of what you are, where you are, and why you are here. You have this great capacity of metacognition to be able to do these things. And like the author talked about as well, you have this great capacity through metacognition to, it's like a firewall. You have these ideas coming in, you want to examine them. You want to go, wait, stop. Here's this idea. Before I integrate it and make it a part of me, let me look at it, let me examine it, let me understand it. This is kind of similar to Descartes' idea of his metaphor of having ideas like a basket of apples too. You want to be really careful. And we talk about this, I'll talk about this in another time, about how to really make sure that you are thinking freely and correctly without contamination. And Descartes talks about this idea of thinking of a basket of apples and thinking about your beliefs as being an apple, each apple. And what Descartes says, if if one of those apples is rotting, that's going to spread to all the other and cause all the other apples to rot as well. And that's saying, like, if you have a fundamental belief that is wrong, that can contaminate all your other beliefs and lead to a completely skewed understanding of what reality is. So what you need to do is take that basket, empty them out, and then examine each apple one by one for rot, and then place them back as you examine the apples that are healthy, and then discard the apples that have rot, which is essentially what you're doing, is that you're starting from a clean slate and then examining each of your beliefs one by one, according to reason, according to logic. And if they're good, you keep them. But if you examine one of them and realize that they're contaminated with being illogical, irrational, then you reject it, so that you can have a healthy mind that is having a clear understanding of reality and existence. And you can see this is a process of metacognition. As you're examining these apples, what you're doing is that you're examining your own mind, you're examining your beliefs, you're examining your thoughts. And this will when you have now thoughts that are uncontaminated by the rot of faulty beliefs of reality, now you'll increase your ability to have a better understanding of what existence is, and you'll be able to add more fruit to your basket and have a much more varied and understanding of existence, and have a clear, and this would allows you to know what you are, where you are, and why you are here. I'm going to stop because I've been talking a long time. I hope you enjoy this. I have a lot of videos on things like this. Check out my playlist. If you haven't, like and subscribe, please do. And if you enjoy my work, if you ever feel like you've learned something or gotten something from my work, it's all about getting this information out to people so that we can live in a world with free thinking and developing more awareness, so we can live in a world where we're creating a better world for ourselves and each other. Anyway, if you enjoy my work, if you ever feel like you learned something from it, consider supporting on Patreon. Helps out a lot. You'll get access to our weekly secret live streams, our hidden Discord server, the Citadel, and I appreciate it. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who does support on Patreon, especially Zach, Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Michael, Angela, Maria, Top of the World, Athan, DB, and Storm the Delta. The link should pop up right over here. I appreciate it very much.